Right there, geezers, Jules here from FGS, home of the Future Game Show. And as you might have seen recently on our channel, we put out a video on games like The Last of Us that you simply need to know more about. And while it was great to see the discourse come out of that video, it also ignited a flame within me. And soon, a red-hot poker was drawn from those fires, and upon my skin were branded the words, "Not deep enough." Yeah, so now regretful shorthand of my show's main focus aside, the message was clear, that as the host of The Deep Cut, that's Jules Gill, baby, I needed to find even more obscure and lesser known games tangentially related to The Last of Us in order to inform the masses. That's you. So I took to the internet, I spoke to old head gaming friends and indie devs, and by God, I even picked up an honest-to-God book or two in order to find you titles that will scratch that cordyceps-flavoured itch. So with this in mind, I'm Jules, this is FGS, and these are 8 games like The Last of Us I guarantee you've never played. And just for some clarity here, obviously games like Days Gone are out of the question because that is too obvious. Plus, I won't be including titles that were featured on our other video, obviously, and just as a preempting strike on comments saying, "Oh, this doesn't feel like The Last of Us," I've selected games based on setting, tone, gameplay similarities, familiar storytelling, or simply because of the vibes they carry, because nothing truly can be a direct one-to-one to that game. So bear that in mind, and also keep that mind open as we go into number 8, The Last Hope, Dead Zone Survival. So we're going to kick things off by talking about a game that I absolutely, positively know that you've not played, and that's because The Last Hope Dead Zone Survival was only available for a purchase window smaller than your chances of getting a job after telling the interviewer that you would tear that ass up after looking at a picture on their desk, and that picture being that of their dog. And why was this game removed and delisted quicker than me stating, no, that wasn't a personal anecdotal story I just used for that dog picture joke, I hear you ask? And why, that's because The Last Hope Dead Zone Survival was a Last of Us clone for the Switch, and not a very good one at that. Actually, that's being quite kind, as this game makes carnival games for the Wii look like a masterpiece by comparison. If you wanted a zombie game without the charm, without the compelling characters, and without any f***ing music, then this is the game for you. And the loading screens, they are woeful, especially for a game that looks like it should be running on a calculator alongside copies of the original Doom. Thankfully, lawyers, the devs, and God themselves all colluded to pull this game from storefronts and save the masses from The Last Hope's tripe-like stink. And it is a game that even if you could play, I certainly wouldn't recommend that you did. Number 7, Nakwon Last Paradise. Okay, I won't lie to you, friends. I can pretty much guarantee that many of you will not have played this next game, mainly because Nakwon Last Paradise has only rolled out a few very selective alpha tests and is a long way off from its full-fat release. But trust me, while I have been a stinker with this entry, I promise you that you will want to know more about this game as it's fresher than an ice cube down the front of your burning loins. Side note, get that checked out. So here in Nakwon Last Paradise, you are thrown right into the middle of a zombie apocalypse and are tasked with venturing out into the overrun city in order to scavenge for supplies. However, unlike other shooters in which combat is the main draw, here ammo and guns are in short supply, meaning that stealth and distractions are the name of the game. And when I say distractions, this can actually mean a few things. It could mean like throwing a rock or a bottle to lure an enemy away from you, or it could be using that rock or bottle to highlight another player for them to be chased instead, as this is actually a PvPvE experience. As a group, you and your friends can take on rival gangs as you look for anything worth a bean and then head very fast towards the exit, because the enemies here, they can't be killed sometimes. Cool. Yet things don't stop there, as it's here that Nakwon's simulation mode begins, with players able to trade their goods, gaining wealth and influence within the survivor camps that can then cement their position in the hierarchy. But you see, the main aim here is to actually not go out beyond the safety of the camp walls, and rich players will be able to avoid losing their character and progression by staying within and chowing down on those aforementioned beans. Plus, if that wasn't enough, then this game is actually coming to us from the minds behind Dave the Diver. It's a bit of a tonal switch, I'll give them that, but if they hit Nakwon with the same care and love as they did that game, well, it's sure to be another smash hit. Number 6, The Last Pascal. Now, sometimes you don't need to look that far in order to find the next best Last of Us experience, and as is the case of the charmingly silly The Last Pascal, because all you need to do here was look towards the fan base itself. Now, if you've ever wondered what The Last of Us would look like as a PS1 game, then you can now quit your very strange bespoke quest, as this is most definitely that. A short adventure that takes everyone's favourite heartthrob and pals and squishes them into that beloved polygonal art style that the PS1 was so famous for. There's rudimentary stealth mechanics, including a not so subtle reference to Metal Gear Solid thanks to its cardboard box sneaking section, a top-down perspective reminiscent of early GTA games, and even Ellie acting as a first aid kit to revive you if you take too many shots to the dome. It's a goofy project made with pure love and adoration for the game and hit TV show, and one that many might have actually seen on their reels and Instagram feeds but never played for themselves, mainly because they wouldn't realise that the gameplay is actually playable in the first place. If you want to try out The Last Pascal, you can head to Potboiler's website and download it for yourselves. And you should, if only to see Pedro Pascal's face downgraded so much that he looks like a potato who's only aware of the concept of pain. Number 5, The Last of Us Escape the Dark. Well, 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 what do we have here other than 3 wells? Why, it's the evil finger temple of doom that only appears in these videos when I've stretched the premise of the episode to its absolute breaking point. And it's with good reason that I doth temple these fingers of the apocalypse, and that's because the next game that we're going to be talking about isn't actually a video game at all. I know, I'm an absolute stinker. And that's because The Last of Us Escape the Dark is instead a board game. Ew, gross, but also hooray, because board games are awesome, and this one is especially brilliant. Brought to us by the devious minds over at Themeborn, who also released the almighty Escape the Dark Castle and Escape the Dark Sector games, The Last of Us Escape the Dark is a choice-driven, dice-rolling and certainly nail-biting experience. Players must navigate their way through different locations, stocking up on supplies and crafting items as they go, all in preparation for an often horrendously difficult boss battle at the end of all things, and then engaging combat by rolling dice and matching symbols to remove the health of enemies. You'll encounter familiar faces, horrendous moral choices which could scupper an entire run, and do all of this against a ticking clock that sees new outbreaks and infections add more and more dangers to the game board. It's tense and excellent fun for up to 5 players, and it is most certainly a game that I'd wager a lot of video game-only Last of Us fans have never even heard of, let alone played. Change that right now, because it's brilliant. In fact, you can go over to Live and Let's Dice, my board game channel. I think that we've actually put up a playthrough of it. We've actually put up a few, yeah. Number 4, The Girl and the Robot. Okay, so you might be looking at the rather colourful, cheery, and most definitely not zombie-infested images of the girl and the robot and thinking to yourself, what lint-covered crack that I've dug out of a mouldy shoe and that I've been smoking. Because I understand, it looks nothing like this, but trust me, while it doesn't look like anything related to The Last of Us at first glance, there are tonal similarities, which I'll detail right now. For example, the main gameplay loop for this supposed PS4 game with definitely PS2-ass graphics is that you play as both a young girl and a giant hulking robot who she controls via a remote. And if giant emotionless robot doesn't describe our Joel at the beginning of his tale, well, I don't know what does, outside of the robot having a faded plaid shirt style spray job. You'll need to switch between the two in order to solve puzzles, sneak behind enemies as the smaller of the pair, and then wade into battle against decidedly more evil, or some could say infected, robots as our hulking automaton. Plus there's even a bow that you can use, which in my eyes is peak Last of Us similarities, and also an evil queen to take down who is turning the world into her own dystopian nightmare in which anyone who speaks out suddenly disappears. Now, is it a stretch to take all of these, like comparing the Queen to Fedra and the Cordyceps victims to the robots? Of course it bloody is, but you can't deny that the gameplay loop of protecting a young girl through dangerous situations and bonding along the way isn't true to the core of the Last of Us experience. Like I said, it looks nothing like it, but you can string things together if you try hard enough. And no, before you ask, the game isn't actually very good and didn't sell well, hence it being as obscure as bloody Kingdom Hearts lore. Number 3, Survive the Fall. So when I was researching into Survive the Fall and looking at its list of features, I was honestly blown away by how much this one game is trying to do, as it's not just content to be a deep and highly customizable CRPG experience, but also a base building and management sim, a zombie game, and an automation title, all with a hefty sprinkling of The Last of Us post-apocalyptic grimness on top. Plus the fact that this game came out, just last week? I'm recording this video in advance, so fingers crossed it has arrived smoothly, means that not everyone and their nan will have played this or possibly even heard all about it. Yes, I'm taking a bit of a gamble here because it might have exploded overnight and become the next big gaming sensation, and now I look like an utter fool by saying you guaranteed you haven't played it, but what if I'm right? What if? That is where we live, my friends, in the what if. Anyway, back on track with Survive the Fall, which tasks players with building and defending an encampment of ragtag survivors who are beset with not only just resource issues, but terrifying monstrous enemies and anomalies. This is basically The Last of Us, but zoomed all the way out to a scale where you are the Fireflies or the Jackson settlement just trying to make it through the day. And adding to this stress are the personal micro-narratives that come from your survivors, who, outside of food and water, require entertainment, comfort and safety in order to stay happy and stay productive. And when you set out beyond your walls in search of supplies, things take on a real-time party-based RPG slant. And because each character has their own special skills and proficiencies, picking the right squad for the job is just as important as your aiming will be when it comes time to take the shot. There is a supreme amount of depth on offer in this game, and thanks to its post-apocalyptic vibes and reliance on characters to pull together to survive, is tangentially adjacent enough to The Last of Us that fans of the series should get a lot out of Survive the Fall. Number 2, Rock of the Dead. Right, okay, listen. Sometimes when making these videos, I go absolutely insane. I fall down the rabbit holes of gaming, and likely accompanied by the off-brand cheese boards that I eat late at night, just definitely infused me with a sense of mania. And as I awoke from my latest fromage-inspired insanity the other day, I saw 4 words scrawled across a notepad with arrows pointing to it. Rock of the Dead. And so, blurry-eyed and stiltoned of breath, I heaved myself towards my computer to type those words in, and what awaited me was one of the maddest games that I've seen in ages, plus the tiniest, and I do mean tiniest, link to The Last of Us that I'm sure you'll forgive me upon finding out more about this game. Because here's a question for you, my friends. What do you think of when you think of Joel from The Last of Us? Gruff, yes. Ass-kicking, yes. But also, guitar player. And it's this thinnest of links that brings us here to Rock of the Dead, because this is a House of the Dead style shooter in which you destroy zombies using a plastic rock band or Guitar Hero controller. This game is pure, unadulterated corn dog. From Rob Zombie providing the music to Neil Patrick Harris providing the dialogue that is so stale that you could use the script to decapitate somebody with.
Whoa, nature rocks!
However, what Rock of the Dead does provide is brain-free fun that you can enjoy with a partner or friend thanks to couch co-op and online play. And the real reason that I've included this on this list isn't actually just because of the light allusion to Joel's guitar playing, but because it provides a slice of levity that you will surely need once you hit that moment in The Last of Us 2. You know what I'm talking about. Plus, I guarantee that you've never played this because this launched in 2010, aka the same year that Guitar Hero murdered themselves by oversaturating the market and capped things off with the rather underwhelming Warriors of Rock. It was not a good time to be releasing a rhythm game, let me tell ya. And it definitely wasn't a good time to be releasing a rhythm game that was as bad as this one. And number 1, Cataclysm, Dark Days Ahead. Okay, so while Rock of the Dead was a bit of a jokey entry, we're about to get deadly serious. Like, honest to God, bust out the spreadsheets and call a priest serious, because our next entry, well, when it comes to immersion and atmosphere, Cataclysm Dark Days Ahead does not mess about. And I say this because this is basically The Last of Us fed through the mighty prismatic obelisk of... Wait, why'd you bleep that? Why are you bleeping that? What's going on? Oh, I get it now. It's because I've mentioned so many times on Deep Cut episodes recently that I barred it from inclusion for a while. So hopefully you've actually put up the text explaining what game I'm talking about and not just bleeping it. But I'll do it one more time just in case. If you like complicated games that turn micromanagement into a macro time sink, then Cataclysm Dark Days Ahead is the game for you, because you can control such granular aspects of your post-apocalyptic survival that it makes Project Zomboid look like a post-it note which just says, "Car alarm, go beep." Here you don't just craft weapons, you smelt, you engage in smithing, you polish and maintain items, and here you don't cook, you prepare recipes and have to watch timers or your food will burn. Hell, you can even form a sourdough starter to make different breads. You can lose yourself just trying to pack your rucksack for the day, and that's before stepping foot into the horrible wasteland that lays in front of you. And I mean that in two senses, because first, it is actually horrendous and you will die a lot, and two, oh my god, these graphics. I've seen cat sick that looks more appealing. However, what is absolutely appealing is the gameplay, which is the epitome of survival sandbox experiences. If you can think it, you can probably do it. And worse still, you can probably have it done to you, because there are so many ways to die in this game. And it's this aspect that is 100% true to the Last of Us experience. The sheer unpredictability of everything. Nobody saw Joel's outcome on the horizon, and few saw the twists and turns that Joel and Ellie's story would take in the first game. And here, in Cataclysm, there is an abject fear that you will not survive the night. And that atmosphere, that rich, dripping tone, well, that is exactly what we're looking for here. And there we go, my friends. Those were 8 video games like The Last of Us I guarantee you've never played. And I hope that you enjoyed that, and let me know what you thought about it down in the comments section below. And are there any other Last of Us adjacent games you'd like to recommend? Use that down as a sounding board there below, my friends. And if you want to chat to me on the social medias, you can do so by going over to Instagram or Blue Sky, where I'm at RetroJ, but the O is a 0. And you can follow my lovely editor Mark over here on his social medias as well. But before I go, I just want to say one thing. Even though we spoke today about The Last of Us and all of its greatness, you know what else is great? You, my friend. You watching this video. You deserve the bloody best. And why is that? Because you are a massive ledge. We all deserve things like love, happiness, and success. So do not deny them for yourself, and do not let anything or anyone else tell you otherwise. You deserve the bloody best. Go out there and smash it. As always, I've been Jules. You have been awesome. Never forget that. And I'll speak to you soon. Bye.